In this case, the three television stations use what is called a video markbox, allowing their reporters to record pictures from the same camera. The Iowa guidelines provide for no more than 2 cameras. Microphones can be placed at the judge's bench and counsel tables. Crews attempt to use the courtroom audio system when possible, and no artificial lighting is allowed. With the video mult system, reporters can monitor the trial in a room off the main courtroom, starting and stopping their video recorders at will. The camera operator stays in the courtroom during the proceedings.
We were playing to a sold-out crowd. I mean, it was the courtroom was filled every day. The cameras are something you forget in the courtroom. I just wasn't the least bit concerned about them. We have certain rules that the TV stations have to go by, and there was only one camera in the room, and it was towards the back of the room, and of course it doesn't make any noise, and I wasn't the least bit concerned about it. Nor did I think my client was concerned about it. I can't see that it had any effect on the trial or the possible outcome of the trial, because the people are there.
Any case that's got notoriety that causes attention in the community, those same people are going to be there. The reporters are going to be there. Whether or not they're equipped with their television cameras or the recording devices is the only difference.
The Mark Smith murder trial lasted for 2 weeks. Prosecutor Davis says the presence of cameras and microphones had no effect in his case. Despite the intense media interest, Davis says not one witness refused to testify.
You want to see him again? Will you be able to recognize him?
Yes, sir.
See him?
Yes, sir.
Point him out to the jury?
I didn't really notice the camera at all in the courtroom, in the back of the courtroom. There were so many people there. That wasn't my main concern. I think the thing that made me the most nervous when I was up there was just the fact that he was in the room looking at me. Everything you take into consideration when you're going to testify in a trial such as this is scary. And I don't think the camera added to the fear as much as all the people and just all the things that were going on.
Psychologist David McEachran has testified at other trials where cameras and microphones were present. He was a witness for the defense in the Mark Smith case.
And he said, "Mark, did you kill her?" And he said, "Yes." He said, "I think so."
The camera is just a steady fixture, and nothing happens. I mean, it's just there. It doesn't move, it doesn't talk, doesn't do anything, doesn't squirm, doesn't perk up and pay attention and take notes like reporters do. So, if anything, I think it's more innocuous.
The only real problem I have with cameras in the courtroom is we can't do any empirical studies to determine if they have an effect. I haven't been able to determine any effect, and I think I've been doing this for 6 or 7 years with the cameras. But we can't jump inside someone else's mind, and we can't run a good study, a good test. I haven't seen any change or any difference in people's actions.
Today marked the first day of testimony in the murder trial of 19-year-old Mark Smith.
All 3 Quad Cities television stations broadcast daily reports on proceedings in the Mark Smith trial. Reporters had the task of editing a full day of testimony into a comprehensive story for the nightly news.
Most of the witnesses who took the stand today were personal friends or relatives of the victim. And at times, as you said, the testimony was very emotional.
Stark County Attorney Bill Davis told the jury during opening arguments that the testimony they were about to hear would be emotionally intense.
As you hear this evidence, consider every one of those blows that were struck to the showman.
The first witness to testify was Victoria Crompton, the victim's mother. She talked about how the relationship between her daughter and Mark Smith was at first friendly, but how it then changed.
She said, "He is such a jerk. I can't believe him."
A friend of Jennifer's, 14-year-old Melissa Nelson, testified that Smith might have known the whereabouts of a key that could be used to enter the Cromptons' home.
He was just joking around, so he locked us out, and the only way he could have gotten in the house was with the key.
Another friend described a note Smith had written to Jennifer.
Said, "I wish we never met. I wish we wouldn't have cut out. I wish he was just a guy."
But probably the most compelling testimony came from Jennifer's stepfather, Greg Tedder. He discovered her body the day she died.
I could see again that there was quite a bit of blood all around her shoulder area, her head. Her mouth was bloody. Her eyes were rolled back into her head, and I tried to get a response, and there was nothing.
In all, 12 witnesses took the stand today, including 2 Bettendorf police officers. Tomorrow, various experts will testify about the evidence in the case.
Participants in the Smith trial generally gave the media high marks for their coverage and their conduct. Prosecutor Bill Davis requested copies of the news reports after the trial and says he saw no problem with any of the coverage. Defense attorney Douglas McDonald agrees.
We made it a point to talk to them about it afterwards to review what had happened, so they did have things straight. And so I don't think that we were faced with a situation where the TV news then was reporting something other than actually what had happened that would give people the wrong idea. I thought it was fairly done.
The jury in the Smith case was admonished not to watch, listen to, or read news accounts of the trial, as juries are in just about all high-profile trials, whether or not cameras and microphones are present. Jury foreman Stanley Fryermuth says he was aware of the intense media interest. He says he doesn't think jurors were influenced by it.
No, I never saw anything that would lead me to believe that they were getting information from somewhere else other than the courtroom. I think I really noticed the TV camera after the verdict was given, and I was quite at ease and looked around, and it was sitting in the aisle. I just didn't really notice it.
Has the jury reached the verdict?
Your Honor, the jury has reached the verdict.
The verdict is, we the jury find the defendant, Mark Allen Smith, guilty of the crime of murder in the first degree.
The Mark Smith trial was a sensational case with strong local interest. Some opponents of microphones and cameras in the courtroom say the media tends to focus on these kinds of cases, the kinds that make good television. There's some truth to that. All news coverage is no more than an editor's judgment of what interests people or affects their lives. The Iowa experience has shown that with proper guidelines, the media can carefully and accurately cover trial court proceedings. Similar results are reported from other states. The judicial system makes up 1/3 of the governmental process. Today, more than ever, people rely on television and radio for their news. In view of the evidence, granting the media the ability to take people into an arena many have never entered is the logical next step.
People should be able to know firsthand what goes on in the courtroom. Many of us who have had experience as trial judges know that jurors and witnesses coming into the courtroom a lot of times have never been there before. They don't know what goes on.
I think the public has a right to know what's going on. I really can't think of a better way for them to know what's going on and have the camera there and show the participants and bits of the key testimony as it comes up.
Basically, I see more and more people paying attention to what really is happening in the courtrooms. Because they see something on television and they know the courtrooms are open, and they may come down and see firsthand what's going on. And I like that. I like people to be involved in the community, to know the crimes that are being committed out there, and people sitting on the juries, what they're going through and the decisions they're having to make.
Maybe the public ought to see how courts are operated. And they ought to have an idea of what goes on in the courtroom. And they ought to see their judges in operation, in action. I think that the benefits, after thinking about it and going through the experience that I've gone through, I think the benefits far outweigh any disadvantages that you might have with cameras in the courtroom. I really do.